Again, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Heavy Hour podcast. As I record this, there is still, for the third day in a row probably, haze here in New York City. I just got off a pretty nasty game, and now I sort of have the energy to interview just a bit more, if you know what I mean. Right. Of course, I think it's important to understand that Heavy has a lot of cosmetics. Some make him look edgy, some don't. Some often make him look, badass. Some just make him look like the most dorkiest kid imaginable. This Heavy that we are interviewing is someone who really encompasses edge. Someone who really encompasses salt. Someone who I like to call Salt.png. Someone who is well known throughout many, many Heavy communities. We have here with us tonight, Sodium. How's it going, Sodium?
I'm doing fine. I have finals coming in a bit, so that's a bit of pain, but, other than that, I'm doing fine.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us. So, just give a brief introduction about yourself, Sodium. Don't go too personal, but...
Okay. So, I'm Sodium, one of the coolest heavy mains to ever live. You will never find anyone cooler or better than me. I am the best heavy main ever.
Is that all? Nah, that's all good.
Actually, wait, no, one more thing.
Yeah.
Stalk is better than Tomislav.
Okay, well, you did answer our last question already. That wraps up the interview, fellas. All right.
Oh, no!
Okay. So, here are a few starter questions. These are usually questions I ask to all my interviewees. How many hours do you have on Heavy, and how long have you been playing the class?
Let me check. I'm pretty sure it's around like 950, 960 now.
So you're close to about 1,000 hours. All right.
Yeah, I might plan on getting that up. However, my prime was during 2021 and 2022. I don't play nearly as much anymore, but I still play a pretty decent amount.
Well, how long have you been playing the class, if I must ask?
Been playing the class since, I want to say 2019?
2019.
So actually not that long compared to everyone else. I actually started as a demo man main.
Demo man main, all right. Are you competitive, or were you competitive at any chance?
So the previous question, were you competitive? Yes. I used to play a lot of Highlander and Sixes back in the days, but I've kind of grown to learn that they're just kind of boring, in my opinion. I mean, Sixes is mainly just a DM fest about who can kill the other person's medic first. And Highlander just doesn't feel like TF2. I mean, it's 9v9, but that's about the end of it. It doesn't feel like it was made for competitive TF2 just as much as Sixes was.
All right. Okay.
Also Sniper.
Yeah, true that. What is your ideal heavy weapons loadout?
I gotta go with the Stock, Sandwich, and Fist of Steel.
Okay, stocks. All right.
This is, in my opinion, the best heavy loadout in the entire game.
All right. What is your highest kill streak and average amount of kills per game with or without a pocket medic?
With and without a pocket medic. Without a pocket medic, I think when my highest is like 49. And with a pocket medic, actually slightly lower because I almost never play with a pocket medic. So 43 with a pocket medic, 49 without. Average kill death ratio, I want to say I usually average around like 3 to 6 to 1.
3 to 6 to 1. Okay.
Or as in like 6 to 1 or 3 to 1.
Yeah, Galaxy Brain plays, I'd say. Yeah. Alright, so if this was really the party interview where we get into the true nitty-gritty, take me through an extended story of your journey as a heavy main, why you chose to play heavy, your major accomplishments as heavy, and any obstacles and setbacks in your journey, and how you got to where you are today.
We're gonna start from a point where I wasn't a heavy man.
Just basically start with like how you decide to, what chain of events caused you to choose heavy as your main, and how you started to become a heavy main.
Right. So back during my preteen days when I was a cringe edgelord, I used to main Demo Man because he was the best class in TF2 by everyone saying. So I was like, I should play the meta class. Not because he's fun or anything, but because, he does the most damage. And while that still holds up today, he's just not nearly as fun as Heavy. So I ended up switching to Soldier, and then I played a tad of Heavy, and then I realized Heavy was the most fun I have ever had while playing TF2. So that was my official swap to Heavy. Of course, I had a few setbacks. For instance, after I played Heavy for a bit, I played some Scout, then some Medic, then some NG. But other than that, that's pretty much my Heavy journey. And afterwards, I just started getting better and better at Heavy until we are here today.
All right. Are there any specific accomplishments you've had as heavy? Like any specific videos, any specific, moments when you played heavy where you realized, yeah, I've really made it to the top 5%.
I want to say when I joined the Heavy Warriors, believe it or not, I just felt like at home with all the heavy mains, all the Putis birds and stuff. Because slightly afterwards, I actually got invited to the General's Armoury, so... And that's kind of where I just learned a lot of stuff about Heavy from some of the better Heavy mains, believe it or not.
Right.
Believe it or not, Gordon is slightly better at Heavy than I am.
Well, I mean, I don't usually call out who's good or not, although there are those that are better. There's no such thing as the best heavy, but there's the most effective heavy. I know I actually want to put this point out. You're actually well known in a few heavy main communities. You were promoted sergeant very recently in the Heavy Warriors, and you were promoted mod in the subsidiary community known as the Armoury of Jruokis.
I have a lot of money.
Okay, so you basically bribed.
No, I didn't even bribe them. It's just I run the server that makes all of their events possible. In fact, I run the server that makes all of your events possible.
Yes, that is true. If y'all don't know, I host TF2 events. I've hosted heavy.
So yeah, it definitely helped that I was the one who had the skills to pay the bills in order to get sergeant rank in the Heavy Warriors. However, in terms of the General's Armoury, I think it was more because of my just leadership and overall charisma. I'm really awesome like that.
Okay, all right. What can be changed about Heavy as a class?
He needs more variety in his playstyle. Like Vegemite said, Brass Beast is like the most variety you're gonna get when playing Heavy. Because at least you get to like play differently. Every other minigun plays practically the same. Scout's like the Force of Nature, which definitely switches up how he does damage. He has the Winger, which changes mobility. He has the Boston Basher, which lets him build on medics. And all Heavy has is like, I don't know, I guess he has like punching Heavy with KGB and like Buffalo Steak. But those are meme playstyles, and like, you can't play those effectively. So I think something that would be nice is, Ballistics Launcher, obviously, from TF2 Classic. However, I just want something that mixes up Heavy's playstyle more than just, ooh, you move slightly faster. Ooh, you do slightly more damage.
Well, how so? Is there any specifics that you would, that you want to, talk about?
So I would actually personally like a lunchbox item that heals you less, but increases your speed. Unlike the Buffalo Steak, it's just a very slight speed buff, while also healing you, and doesn't limit you to melee. While I get this would be busted in Highlander and stuff, it's just Heavy needs that ability to get to mid faster. Because by the time he's at mid, he's usually already, covered in spies and scouts and snipers.
Okay. Are there any other points you would like to make? Those are some good points. The aircraft cannon was mentioned a lot in our previous interviews.
Like, giving Heavy the ability to get too much mobility. Mobility is what limits Heavy from actually being busted. The only issue is mobility is what tends to make most classes fun.
Yeah, that is true. Heavy does need a bit
So I
more
think that's
mobility.
like some mild mobility at the cost of healing yourself slightly less.
All right.
Or, no, not slightly less, as in a lot less.
A lot. Those are some good points. Okay. Next question. This is one of the more this is one of the more interesting questions because I've had a few various answers. Heavy mains that have inspired you, if there are any, and heavy main YouTubers or videos that you see are the best source for help is heavy. You can mention yourself if you'd like.
You already know my take on Big Joey, but I'm going to continue anyways. I would like to say there are very few actual heavy mains on YouTube who have inspired me. Like, I have to say Big Joey, because, of course, he's, like, one of the only heavy mains in YouTube. Other than that, like, Bearded Expense, maybe.
Are there any
Like,
others? Um,
there aren't too many else that I can exactly name, by name, because they're pretty small and I can't really remember their names.
are there any specific videos that you would say are a good source for help as heavy?
You have to bite the bullet and say Big Joey's 10 tips and stuff. I will also just say, like, as a general rule of thumb, there are two things that matter as heavy: positioning and tracking. Those are the only two.
Okay. Um, what are some tidbits? We're actually getting pretty close to the end. We breezed through this, but I think that's all right. What are some tidbits of advice that you want to give to those that are either struggling or new to heavy? And what are some maps and strategies that you would recommend?
Alright. So, newer heavies, let's get this out of the way. You are not playing the best class in the game. Okay, you are not playing the best class in the game right now. There are 3 classes that are better than you. In fact, there are actually a few more, in my opinion, like Engineer and Soldier and Scout. A lot of classes are better than you. However, it's the most fun class to play, in my opinion. It really depends on what you want to be accomplishing. Other than that, best ways to improve are just playing the video game. You can't really force getting better at heavy like you can with, like, Soldier Demo. Because, like, you can't do MGE as heavy, because that just comes down to who has the better ping. And that one tracking map doesn't work all that well, because you get used to knowing that you have to track good. However, in a real game, scouts just pop out of nowhere, and you have to be ready.
Are you talking about
So you can't
scout
just be
aim?
revved at all times. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point. I mean, I do play tier aim. In fact, that's one of the big maps I recommend. Although, yeah, it is true that in practicality it doesn't work. Um, any specific map?
It lets you improve your tracking, but only if you're, like, prepared. But getting jumped and knowing a scout is coming are two completely different things that you either win or lose by.
Okay. Are there any specific maps or strategies that you would recommend?
If you're newer to heavy, I gotta suggest Payload. Payload is the best map category for heavy, just in general, and Snowy Coast, believe it or not, is one of my favorite maps.
All right.
Snowy Coast, Gold Rush, Frontier, those are the 3 maps I would suggest because they have the least ridiculous sniper sightlines. However, when it comes to payload, those are pretty large.
All right. Okay, well, we more or less got through the main questions pretty fast. So these are just 2 questions I asked. First of all, thank you once again for coming on to the show.
Yeah.
You are pretty well known, and I feel like hopefully if this video releases, there will be some that will recognize you.
Yeah, I'm awesome.
Yeah, of course. The best song genre to listen to while you pup stomp.
You know I'm an emo enjoyer. Linkin Park, probably. That I get rock, just rap rock, emo rock. Basically rock. I get others have said stuff that calms you. However, most of my mix is usually just rock music that I enjoy.
Well then, any specific bands you would recommend?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Any specific bands that you would recommend?
Like I said, Linkin Park, Muse, Metallica. I have to say Megadeth.
Good bands. Them all.
Those are the four I would suggest. Evanescence if you're feeling emo.
Well, I don't. I'm not really into emo.
Okay.
And this last question, you already answered it all the way back at the beginning. All right, but only just to reiterate.
I think it'd be more interesting if I'd say my take on the Breast Beast here.
You know what? Sure, if you think that there's a weapon that's better than the Tomislav or stock, you would recommend for all round, go ahead and tell us why.
Well, it's not better, but it is a extremely fun play style that actually plays differently than normal heavy.
How so?
So I've just got to recommend Brass Beast Shotgun here.
How so?
Okay, you have to play more carefully, you have to have better shotgun aim, and you're rewarded with very high damage. Because since Brass Beast's main downside is being slow, shotgun is the perfect pick for it, because shotgun is fast, does very high close range damage, and doesn't have to, rev up. So while Brass Beast does most of the damage, having your shotgun out in order to blast down foes is pretty fun. It's like playing Fat Scout, except it's not a meme.
So it's like playing Fat Scout, but viably, in a way.
Yes, pretty much.
Alright.
It also allows you to, believe it or not, flank with Brass Beast, which I wouldn't suggest all the time, but it's really funny when you pull it off.
It's very rare, too. You don't usually manage to do that. I've almost never flanked with the Brass Beast, because I don't play with the Brass Beast in pubs.
Yeah, fair point. I just want to say it's extremely underrated. Probably my most fun minigun pick, and probably the third best minigun.
Okay. But going back to the main questions, Tomislav or stock. You said stock, and you have lived by that comment until you die. How so? Give your reasoning on why the stock is 100 trillion times better than the Tomislav.
If I said every single reason, this would go on all day, so I'll keep it short. Stock plays to heavy strengths. Tomislav is against heavy strengths. So heavy is a close-range class. Tomislav tries to make him a medium to long-range class. Stock does more damage from close range to mid-range, whereas Tomislav does more damage mid-range to long-range. Tomislav has weaker damage, and also the silent rev and faster rev barely matter, because in pubs you aren't going to exactly... I'm like... If you're playing heavy well, you're going to be revved a lot of the time. And if you're playing Tomislav, then that won't really matter. In fact, you're just going to do less damage at close to medium range than a stock heavy. Other than that, the entire spy argument with Tomislav is stupid. The initial rev up of Tomislav is actually louder than stock's initial rev up, believe it or not. So the self-proclaimed silent rev isn't so silent. You can hear it across like the entire map. In terms of spies not being able to, play effectively against you, the Tomislav firing is louder than the stock firing. They somehow made the quiet minigun louder than the loud minigun. So in the end, you aren't going to be able to hear spies all that well when you're firing with either minigun.
I wish I had understood this earlier, because I don't really notice, but it could be attributed to the fact that my game volume TF2 is actually pretty low, given I sometimes play music in the background. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming on to the, well, first of all, Sodium, thank you for coming on to the Heavy Hour podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the Heavy Hour podcast. Sodium, you have the final word.
Stock is better than Tomislav, but play Tomislav if you feel like it, I guess.
All right. Thanks for coming on. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, bye.
Yep.